What's up, everyone? Here's the first of a couple of interviews that I did with the cast of Gotham. You will see one moment where I'm classic Michelle, where I ask a couple of angry viewer questions about the show to the producers, where I'm like, basically, tonally, it's all over the place, and that's something I've been complaining about in my Gotham write-ups for like the last 2 years. So I actually talked to the producer, and I'm like, hey, come on, what's going on with the tone of this show? And because I told him, well, I have a few negative things to say about the show. And he's like, oh no, here we go. So watch for that moment. It's kind of funny because it's me. I always walk into these interviews and people are always like, I can't believe you ask the questions you do. How do you get away with it? And I'm always like, I go into these interviews on the assumption that I would never talk to these people ever again. So if that's the case, I might as well just ask the questions I'm going to ask because, hey, I'm in D.C. and it isn't like I get to talk to these people all the time, like my West Coast friends or New York City friends. I'm in D.C. I don't get to talk to people all the time. I only get to talk to them at big conventions like Comic-Con. And so I'm going to get my questions in. Even if they're like negative questions, I want to get the answers to stuff that buzz me about a show and find out exactly what the hell they were thinking. So yeah. And actually producers and the actors and stuff, I find they really love that about me, actually, that, it shows that I actually watch the shows, and B, it shows that, I care, I guess. So it's pretty interesting. So anyway, without further ado, before in all these videos, I keep closing by having one more thing to say. I feel like Steve Jobs, but anyway, please leave a comment and talk. Let's talk about Gotham for a few. Let's talk about Gotham and what you think of their answers, and all that kind of fun stuff. Leave a comment below. I'm actually going to tweet this out to the producers and to David and all the cast members and Erin and all those folks over the next couple of days. But Gotham returns Monday night, April 24th, which is tomorrow night, assuming I get this up today, which is Sunday, April 23rd. So anyway, check it out. Gotham cast. Boom. Or should I go boom? Boom, 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 boom. Start with my favorite ship right now, which is Bruce and Cat. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on with that relationship?
That relationship is crazy. It's not necessarily toxic, their relationship, but it's definitely a wild ride. And when we pick up this season, it's kind of catching them on their little downfall, and then for the rest of the season after that, it's them going their separate ways and trying to figure out who they are.
And how is the appearance of your long lost mother going to impact Kat or the remaining?
I think that it impacts her immensely. I think because Selina didn't want to start a relationship with her mom again because her mom did her so wrong from the beginning of her life, and the fact that she abandoned her again just in a different way, it hurts Selina because all she wants to feel is loved, and I think that betrayal from her mother definitely skyrockets her into this direction that she didn't necessarily see herself
Super.
going.
It's my favorite guy, Butch.
Yeah. I've always thought you had great taste.
Become a lot of people's favorite guy.
Yeah, right?
What has that been like to kind of come in and to see where Butch started and what that role was, and to be able to grow it as much as you've been able to do it?
It's been great. And I said to somebody earlier today, I'm the only one that's not surprised by that, only because I took Bruno Heller at his word when he said early on, he's like, look, this Butch character is going to take time and he's going to grow, and people are going to underestimate him until it's too late, and there's going to be a life here. You're just going to have to trust me, because I moved my family from Los Angeles to New York for this job. So it was, if I would have just been going on what I'm reading early on, I would have been like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. But he was true to his word, and it's been a blast to create this, and it's been fun because I've kind of known, particularly at the beginning, I knew what was coming, but fans didn't. So they're like, who this henchman, and then to see them slowly come. Like I'd see these tweets and be like, I don't know if it's weird, but I'm really starting to like Butch. Like, oh, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Butch is one of my favorite characters. It's like each one of those was like a fist pump for me. I'm like, yes,
It wasn't going good for a while. It hit a rough patch, and I think it's going to take some time to recover from that. Selina is very angry with Bruce, as we saw in one of the last episodes to air, and it will take her a while to forgive him. And I think Bruce is going through something very, very big in his personal life right now, in these coming episodes, and eventually. I think they will make amends, but it's going to take a while to get there because what happened was such a big speed bump in their relationship.
He's taken a lot of steps this season towards becoming the hero that he's going to become eventually.
Absolutely.
Tell me what's left in the season that kind of keeps him on that path. Can you discuss a little bit about what's ahead?
I think it's funny because you're saying that now and you haven't even seen what's coming, but. That's basically what the Bruce arc in these last 8 episodes are. It's him on his journey becoming what he's about to become. And I don't want to give away too much, but like I said in the panel, I don't know if you guys were listening, but it's really guided by his great desire to figure out his destiny and to figure out his greater purpose in Gotham. And he wants to know who he is, and somebody will come along and tell him.
Velvet top, like collar, and there's a detail here. But when I walked into the fitting room and I saw the actual green, I was like, whoa! That's like a sample thing, right? Because that's really green and that's really shimmery. They're like, that's it. And I was like, was this okay to have you shown them like this fabric? I was nervous because I was like, this is really bright. And as you can see in Gotham, people don't really wear bright clothing. There might be rich colors, but it's never bright. And this green is bright. But I love it. It's really fun. I tried it on. It's well tailored. It was made for me. And it's a really beautiful green, and it truly does shimmer. And I like that it represents this side of Edward that wants to be seen and wants to be acknowledged, and it's kind of flamboyant. I like that he's entering this thing, and it's like a bit of a showman thing. He wants people to see him. I like that.
So they're very dependent on each other. Here she is. Do you want to describe our relationship, maybe? Oh,
I'm sure you're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks. So yeah, lots of love between us as people. Not so much love between them as characters right now. They very much need each other. It's not as easy as like the brain and the brawn, because Tabitha's a very intelligent character, but it's more that Tabitha doesn't have the aspirations that Barbara does. Barbara wants to be in control because of her personality and the fact that she's never found her place in the world. Tabitha is interested in control because it's, a good business opportunity. And because she supports Barbara in that quest, she knows that it would be a good thing to be running Gotham. But she doesn't have that, I don't think she has that sort of burning passion to be in control.
Hope that I can relate more to the real Bruce. Bruce, too, it's interesting because he's not bad, you're right. He's lost. He's very much a lost soul looking... Actually, now that I think about it, similarly to Bruce in these last 8 episodes, but he's looking for a purpose as well. He's looking for... ultimately he's looking for love, but the direct... ultimately he's looking for love, he's looking to be cared for, but his most direct goal is to find a purpose, somebody to give him something to do with his life. Because he was created in a lab, let out, and where do you go from there? He doesn't know anybody, he has literally 0 relationships. And so he sees Bruce, he sees somebody who looks identical to him, and he thinks, that's it. That's my calling. And when Bruce kicks him out, with good reason, but he kicks him out from his life and says, I don't never want to see you again. Bruce too takes that and ends up in the hands of the Court of Owls. And now, because who he thought was going to be his savior ended up breaking his heart, he's not going to have any trouble hurting him back.
You mentioned on the panel, doing research and watching stuff like that in the animated series. Was there any previous iteration of the character that left a long-lasting impression on the direction you wanted to take Bruce?
Like one specific.
Was there anyone that kind of stood out, or because you mentioned kind of taking elements from all of them that you didn't know about the character?
That's a really good question. I'm trying to think now. I think one of the things that really influenced me in almost every single scene that I did, after I kind of... It was two things that really did this for me. It was the Batman series created by Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder, 2011, and also Batman Begins. Those two things, Batman shared a quality in both of those, where he was very much stoic, and also you never could really tell what he was thinking. And that's something that I kind of really started to explore, and I felt like it was fitting with what was happening with Bruce in the series, but something I really started to explore towards the middle of season 2, where he becomes much, and I think if you go back, you'll notice it. I think he's much more transparent in his, simply put, in his facial expressions throughout season 1 and the first half of season 2, and then towards the middle of our series so far, he becomes much more stoic. I think that's just the simplest way to put it.
Well, here's the thing. Butch had a moment at top, in season 2, and he didn't like it. I think the whole point of Butch is he's a survivor. He grew up in Gotham. He knows the nooks and crannies. He knows all the buttons to push. He knows the dark corners, and he knows enough to know that if you're, on top, there's a much greater chance that you're going to get knocked down. So, and I think that's one of the cool things about he and Tabitha and their bond is that she's kind of the same way. She always worked better as an offsider, as a second in command, because then she can kind of work in the shadows and creep. And so that connection between the two of them I thought was really neat and a great job on the writer's part. So what I hope to see moving forward is to find out that backstory. Like, who is Butch really? Like, who is this guy? Where does he come from? What's his story? He's got this random nephew, Sonny. But what's he really about? So I'm hopeful that'll be the case.
Is it a smarter play to be the power behind the scenes as opposed to being on top and having everything done?
Well, that's what I think. I think she's smart enough to know that alliances are important. And you don't want to piss off the wrong people if she's a bit more of a snake in the grass that way.
And then you personally, who do you hope Tabitha ends up with, Butch or Barbara?
Me personally. Neither, honestly. I hope she finds her own way. I hope she starts something completely new.
Does she feel love for either of them, like actual real love, or is it just sort of circumstantial?
I mean, I don't know that she knows what real love or intimacy really is. I think that she cares about them more than she understands that she does. But like I said, loyalty is so important to her, so for Barbara to turn on her in any way, to be disloyal, that's where her affection lies. So if that doesn't exist, there is none. And for Butch, I think that she has a lot of affection for, he's like a puppy dog. It's an unrequited kind of love. Like, I think she cares about him more than she does.
Well, it's just, it's a shame. We wanted Russ to be really a big surprise, because it's a great intro. But these things get out. But the idea of like, how does the journey with the Court of Owls end? With ancient mysticism, they are such a political party, a Machiavellian, Borgia kind of world, that we wanted to go more mystic and go back centuries and talk about history and stuff like that, which is the next evolution of our villain, which is Raz is really good for that. So that's where that comes in, and that really. The end of the season is about just when you thought you found the bottom of the rabbit hole, just when you know what's in the shadows, comes guys who live in the shadows, and
So tonally, I was telling Cory this. You're the one I should bring this up, but for the first 8 episodes, it seemed to go really dark and a little over the top dark. How do you balance that with shifting back to the, I don't want to say comedy, but
Right.
can you just talk about the tone?
Totally.
Stuff in that I just think is way too much.
Right. Yeah. No. The thing about it is, it's funny because we all feel like we're on that line, and when you read the scripts, you all feel like you're on the same page. You all feel like you're doing that. It's just a tiny little shove. When you're dealing with a world that you want to be real, but it's an alternative reality, it's lost in time. Any little shove that way or that way takes you into, it's really hard to tread that. It's been very hard to get writers who completely get that world, directors who get that world, and to get day players who can come in and play the scene with these guys who have really embraced the world as well. Just sometimes, if you have a dark scene with a director who's dark and a dark line in a dark world, just one little tip that way. And sometimes in the cutting room we've gone, ooh, ooh, but it's weird. It's like playing in a band and somebody just plays a riff along with you. They're playing exactly the same chords, but he plays it like Twiggy in Manson's band. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think then we got it back again. I think because I wrote that Mad Hatter episode, and it's kind of like, it was good to go down that path for a little while because, when you think about what this guy does for a living, it's creepy as hell. But at the same time, that was definitely in the cutting room going, and so hence you've got him, using rhyme a lot more and being in a different balance. I think it's not like a movie where you can spend 6 months in the cutting room or 6 months writing it or 2 years writing it. I mean, we write these things and, it's barely dry and people are saying it on set. And then the writer walks by a cutting room and they're saying his words in a scene and it's been cut. And 2 weeks later it's on the air. I mean, so walking that thin line of what is Gotham, it only takes one little shove one way or the other and the tone shifts.